Hey, what is up, mortals? It is JSatwekar here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 16 of What If Deku Had a Super Speed Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Izuku raced towards the entrance of UA as the sun started to peek out over the horizon. Sir Night-Eye and Mirio were already at the entrance, having a hushed conversation. Night-Eye noticed Borealis approaching them and waved him over. Now that Midoriya is here, I will explain what we are doing today. Each exam site will have 20 teams of heroes patrolling the perimeter. The 3 of us will be patrolling the east side of Test Site B, Night-Eye bluntly said as he pushed his glasses back to their proper position. We've received several calls from concerned citizens. The civilians saw a person who fits the general description of the villain Muscular. Once we get to the site, I will test the radios we were given to make sure they're operational. Midoriya, let's keep the exam site safe, Mirio excitedly said. Sir, do you think the exam site will be attacked? Site B is the most likely target. It has the fewest top-ranked heroes protecting it. We also shouldn't ignore the possibility of multiple sites getting attacked, the dark green-haired man said with concern as he looked at his interns. The individual behind the mayhem was seen talking to a villain with a cloning quirk. Remember, if you end up fighting a villain, make sure to draw the fight away from civilians. Yes, sir. Are we patrolling by ourselves, or as a team? Izuku then asked nervously. Borealis, you will be paired with Lemillion. Once we get to the exam site B, make sure to refer to each other only by your hero names, the pro-hero calmly said as he looked at the 2 hero interns. Make sure to stay near your partner. You can expect a disruption in our communications if any major attack happens at the site. Once Night-Eye finished speaking, he started walking over to a late-model, dark green car that was parked nearby. The 2 students followed him to the car. Once everyone was in the vehicle, the pro-hero drove them to the exam site. As they were walking to their post, the dark green-haired hero had everyone test their radios. Are you boys able to hear me clearly? Sir Night-Eye asked as he spoke through his radio. This is the final equipment test before we start patrolling. I can hear you just fine, sir, the bulking blonde said through his radio. Borealis, how's your radio? I can hear you guys just fine, Borealis nervously muttered into the radio that was now embedded in his mask. I'm glad they were able to build the radio into my costume on such short notice. That's the support department at UA. Anything else, sir? Mirio politely asked his mentor. No, please head to your assigned location. The dark green-haired hero instructed the 2 interns. Make sure to check in every 10 minutes. Both boys were found patrolling the area before the exam and started relaxing. The start of the exam was signified by a series of explosions occurring at the test site. After the blast died down, rumbling could be heard coming from the stadium. When Borealis called their position out over the radio, he noticed a trace amount of static as he spoke into the radio. Lemillion, I heard a trace amount of static over the radio, Borealis nervously muttered as he kept a smile on his face. Are you sure? Lemillion was saying when he was cut off by an announcement that came in over the radio. Both looked at each other when they heard that the building was going on lockdown because contact had been lost with the heroes on the west side of the building. Before the 2 boys could move, a loud crash could be heard as something landed near them. Dust was blasted into the air from the impact, which obscured the person who landed in front of them. We never got to finish our fight, kid. I hope you're ready for round 2. Muscular snarled menacingly as he walked out from the dust cloud. Lemillion tried to use the radio, but all he heard was static. The signal was being jammed. Borealis activated his quirk immediately as he heard the bloodlust in Muscular's voice. The green-haired boy masked the fear he felt by putting a determined smile on his face. In an instant, the villain's exposed arms were covered in well-organized muscle fibers. Izuku started to move to his right as Muscular sprang forward. Lemillion, be careful! This guy is pretty strong and really fast, Izuku warned as he noticed that his teammate hadn't moved. Thanks for the warning, Borealis, Lemillion said with a smile as the villain threw a right punch at his chest. Muscular's right fist went through Mirio's chest as the blonde-haired boy used his quirk to phase and moved towards his left. Without missing a beat, the villain attacked Izuku. Don't hold back, kids. There's about a dozen more of me running around. Now we can fight without interruption, the blonde-haired villain said with a blood-curdling laugh. The 2 provisionally licensed heroes looked at each other in confusion. This was the first time the duo had heard about another person in the Liberation Army that could clone his allies. Lemillion tried to radio again, but it was still being jammed. As the blonde-haired intern was about to shut his radio off, he heard another hero requesting backup. The transmission was cut off by a laugh coming over the radio. Mirio started to charge forward as the villain attacked Izuku with a straight left punch. Borealis shifted to his left in an attempt to move out of the way of the attack. Once the green-haired boy was clear of the punch, he sent a straight right kick into the villain's right knee. The villain's knee buckled under the force of the impact. At that moment, the emerald-eyed boy activated overdrive. With the green light starting to encase him, Borealis leapt away to avoid the villain's next attack. The blonde-haired student threw a straight right punch into the villain's face. Muscular tried to catch the fist in his left hand. Lemillion simply phased his right hand through the villain's hand. The punch connected with the blonde-haired criminal's face. Mirio noticed that his attack failed to harm the villain in the slightest. The cerulean-eyed boy again moved to his left as the criminal started to attack him. A green bolt of lightning hit the yellow-haired villain in the back. The sudden impact caused the villain to pause. The villain started to smile and turned to look at the green-haired boy. "You picked up a new trick since the last time we fought," the yellow-haired victim said menacingly as he looked at his two opponents. "I hope you weren't expecting that weak little punch of yours to hurt me. Both of you better stop holding back." For a moment, Borealis thought he heard Sir Night-Eye on the radio. However, with all the interference coming through the radio, he couldn't figure out what was actually being said. The green-haired boy decided to use the situation to his advantage. Instead of turning his microphone and his radio off, the emerald-eyed boy left the microphone on. Muscular noticed that the green-haired boy tried to call for assistance. The blonde-haired man frowned in disappointment as he leapt into the air and began to throw a punch at Borealis as he descended. Borealis moved to his left, causing the attack to miss, and hit the ground as Muscular landed. As the dust from the strike started to settle, several explosions went off around the stadium. Izuku kept the smile on his face as Muscular sent a straight right kick at him. The green-haired boy dodged to his right to avoid being hit. Once the villain committed to the attack, Lemillion activated his quirk. Mirio left his mask behind as he phased into the ground. Once the cerulean-eyed boy thought he was close enough, he deactivated his quirk. As he came out of the ground, he sent a straight left punch into the villain's face, knocking Muscular down. The yellow-haired man rubbed his jaw as he got up. The villain lunged at his blonde-haired opponent. Instead of changing directions, he continued until he stood over the mask that was lying on the ground. Muscular then stomped on the mask, destroying the radio that was embedded inside. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice that you two have been trying to call for help?" Muscular growled with murderous intent as he stared his two opponents down. "Last time we were interrupted, kid. This time there will be no interruptions. Where's all that energy you had back on the mountain?" "Borealis, let's take this guy down," Lemillion said with determination as he met the villain's stare. "How do we stop him? Last time it took everything I had just to survive until help arrived," Borealis said as he felt the adrenaline rushing through his body. "You were fighting alone last time. This time you have help," Mirio said optimistically. "If our full strength isn't enough, then we just have to go plus ultra." The two boys looked at each other before rushing at their opponent. Mirio slipped into the ground. Izuku found comfort in the green lightning that was being emitted from his body. An idea slowly started to form in his head as the green-haired boy remembered the quirk apprehension test and his last attack on the mountain. The emerald-eyed boy started to imagine the green lightning that his body was emitting hitting the villain. At first, nothing happened, but then a single green bolt of lightning hit the villain. Using this opportunity, Lemillion sent a straight right punch into Muscular's face. Mirio phased into the ground as he avoided a straight right punch from the villain. Another bolt of lightning hit the villain in the chest. Izuku then sent a straight right punch into the blonde-haired man's face. Several lightning bolts struck the man's body. The one-eyed criminal stumbled back as he was blinded momentarily by the light. The yellow-haired man swung a straight right punch at his opponent. The blue-eyed boy struck the man's left knee with a straight right kick. The sudden force caused the villain to stumble backwards as the man lost his footing. Before Izuku could attack the villain again, a large piece of debris landed between him and the villain. Mirio phased into the ground to avoid the incoming debris. The debris rapidly took on a yellow glow. A large explosion occurred as Izuku sought cover. Screams could be heard from the west side of the building as more explosions were heard. "That idiot has no respect for a good fight. I don't need those two getting hit by debris," the one-eyed villain growled in annoyance. "You kids better not have taken any damage from that explosion." The cloud of dust created by the explosion prevented Borealis from seeing Muscular, so he rushed in the direction of his opponent's voice. Without a moment of hesitation, Lemillion ran towards the villain again. Another green bolt of lightning struck the villain in the face. The green-haired boy sent a straight right punch into the chest of the one-eyed villain. Muscular grabbed the fist and used it to throw the emerald-eyed boy into his partner. The villain smiled, despite his hand burning from grabbing the green-haired boy. The pair found themselves being pushed closer to the stadium. As Muscular pushed them to the west side of the building, the duo saw the damage. A clone of the man they were fighting was slowly turning into mud. Several cars had been crushed by Muscular's clones. Several pro-heroes were laying incapacitated on the ground. Other pro-heroes were lying in a crater with their limbs twisted at odd angles. The two provisional heroes forced themselves to focus on their opponent instead of their surroundings. Both kept smiles on their faces as they focused on defeating their opponent. Izuku swallowed nervously as he remembered the destruction that occurred during the fight between All For One and All Might. For a brief moment, he wondered how his idol managed to deal with it. Then he remembered Gran Torino telling him that his mind was cluttered. Borealis, truly understanding the words of his teacher, charged forward again. If the green-haired boy wanted to save people, he had to bring this villain down. There would only be more people in need of assistance if he let Muscular continue attacking people. The emerald-eyed boy focused his mind on seeing the most efficient way to bring his opponent down. When his one-eyed opponent threw a straight right punch at him, Borealis ducked under the blow. As Lemillion ran forward, he phased into the ground. Mirio watched his teammates' movements, waiting for the right moment to strike. Once Izuku avoided the attack, he pivoted on his right foot and sent a left kick into the right side of the villain's torso. And with a sickening crack, two of the villain's ribs broke. The blonde-haired student saw his opening, as Muscular was slowed down because of the broken ribs. He deactivated his quirk and popped out of the ground. With a straight left punch, Lemillion punched his opponent in the face. As the criminal fell down, he covered the right side of his body in muscle fibers. Muscular sprang up quickly, with a demonic-looking smile on his face. "There's the fighting spirit. If I had known that it would take the carnage over here to force you two to get serious, I would have dragged you here sooner." Muscular happily growled as he stared at his opponents. "I hope there's more where that came from. This is where the real fight begins." The villain rushed at Borealis. The man's smile grew wider as green bolts of lightning hit him and started to burn away the muscles covering his arms. He feinted, reaching out with his right arm in an attempt to grab his opponent's left arm. As Izuku ducked under the arm, a straight right kick caught him square in the stomach. Borealis went flying as he coughed up blood. The emerald-eyed boy noticed more muscle fibers starting to cover the man's arms. Mirio sprinted forward as he, once again, slipped into the ground. Unlike the previous times when he would strike quickly and then slip into the ground, this time, just before he reached the villain, he deactivated his quirk completely. "Phantom Menace!" Mirio shouted as he sent a straight right punch at his opponent's face. Muscular was caught out of position as the attack came in and was unable to dodge or block the attack. The attack landed on the right side of his face and broke his jaw. Another series of explosions went off. A body of a dead police officer was thrown from the explosion into Muscular's body. This slowed the villain down as he went to attack Lemillion. Izuku felt his body slowly recover from the blow to his stomach. A small streak of blood ran down the left side of his mouth. Using his right arm, the green-haired boy wiped the blood from his face. Steadying himself, he rushed forward as the villain tried to punch Lemillion in the ribs. Once again, the villain's punch passed through his opponent without any effect. He then picked up the dead police officer and flung it at Borealis. The emerald-eyed boy slipped below the body as it sailed towards him. Despite the overwhelming amount of fear he was feeling, Borealis kept his smile on his face at all times and kept his mind focused only on the fight. He imagined the lightning coming off his arm and striking his opponent in the face. The green-haired boy tried to imagine doing the same thing that he unleashed on his one-eyed opponent at the end of their first fight. The green light surrounding his arms got more intense as Borealis focused his quirk into his arms. Despite the pain in his jaw, Muscular smiled when he saw that his opponents were giving it their all. The muscle fibers on his arms kept an organized pattern as more of them covered his arms. The one-eyed man rushed at the green-haired boy and sent a straight left punch at the boy. The emerald-eyed boy ducked under the punch as he threw a straight right punch into his opponent's stomach. Bolts of green lightning struck the man as Izuku's fist connected. An average-sized explosion occurred as the blonde-haired criminal was sent flying into an overturned police car. Borealis tried to catch his breath as he saw his opponent dusting himself off as he stood up. The yellow-haired man stopped smiling for the first time in the fight. The only thing that the two provisionally licensed heroes noticed was the overwhelming amount of bloodlust in the villain's eyes. The green-haired boy noticed a small drop of sweat rolling down Muscular's face. As the bead of sweat was about halfway down his face, it evaporated. Mirio noticed that the one-eyed criminal was beginning to slow. The man was no longer springing up the moment he hit the ground. The muscle fibers that were coming out of the villain were also coming out more slowly. The blue-eyed boy noticed that his teammate was also starting to slow down. He sensed that the fight was reaching its final stages. Lemillion activated his quirk as the yellow-haired villain launched himself at Borealis. As he was running forward, the cerulean-eyed student kept his head above the ground so he could see where his opponent was going. Once he was sure his opponent had committed to his attack, he phased completely into the ground. Just like last time, Mirio kept deactivating and reactivating his quirk to build up speed. Izuku pushed his quirk to its limits as the villain approached him. Borealis' body reacted faster than his mind could process his opponent closing the distance between them. Muscular threw a straight left punch at his green-haired opponent. As the emerald-eyed boy ducked under the blow, Lemillion deactivated his quirk, popped out of the ground, and hit the villain on the left side of his face with a straight right punch. Borealis focused his quirk into his left arm. The light was so intense that it caused Izuku's eyes to water. The green-haired boy hooked his left arm upwards and drove an uppercut into his opponent's broken jaw. Stray bolts of green lightning struck the villain on the lower part of his face and upper body. The explosion resulting from Izuku's attack sent the three of them flying in different directions. Borealis slammed into a broken tree. Mirio was blasted into a police car. Muscular was launched into the air and landed on his back on top of a pile of rubble. The muscle fibers covering the villain's body were slowly absorbed back into his skin as the one-eyed villain passed out. Izuku drank some water as he deactivated his quirk. Lemillion limped over to the villain and checked to see if the criminal was really unconscious. He then grabbed the villain and dragged him towards the few remaining officers. The police officers reacted instantly. They injected a strong sedative into the one-eyed villain and then handcuffed him. Slowly, Borealis rose to his feet. Despite the shakiness in his legs, he walked over to his teammate. The emerald-eyed boy tried to contact Sir Night-Eye, but, once again, the only thing he heard was static. He shook his head to let his blonde-haired teammate know that it didn't work. "Once you cool down, let's take care of the rest of the villains," Mirio said. "That muscular guy sure could take a pounding. His strength quirk is something else." "We managed somehow. We should start heading towards the west side of the stadium," Izuku tiredly said as his legs slowly stopped shaking. "I hope none of the villains were able to get past security." As the two boys walked farther to the west, the devastation slowly increased. The checkpoints leading into the exam site were completely destroyed. One dead hero was lying in a pool of his own blood. He had been crushed by a car that was lying a few feet from him. Another hero had his face smashed into pieces. Craters pockmarked the ground in multiple locations. One police officer was lying dead in a crater. He was covered in burns and bleeding from multiple parts of his body. It was evident that he was caught in one of the blasts that the two students had heard. Borealis tripped over a mangled and bloody severed arm. Lemillion stepped in a pile of mud when a large vehicle slammed into the side of the stadium. A police officer and hero had been killed when the vehicle slammed into them. Before either of them could react, the vehicle started to glow yellow. As everyone started to clear the area, Borealis noticed an injured police officer trying to limp away from the vehicle. The green-haired boy activated his quirk and rushed over to the vehicle to save the injured officer. The officer collapsed to the ground just before Izuku reached him. The emerald-eyed boy carefully picked up the officer and sprinted away from the vehicle as it exploded. To avoid the full impact of the blast, he pushed his quirk to its limit. Borealis was able to carry the officer behind an overturned bus. Setting the officer on the ground, he noticed a pool of blood starting to form near the police officer's left leg. Izuku tried to use his radio to call for medical assistance. Borealis, Lemillion, can either of you hear me? Sir Night-Eye asked over the radio as he tried to remain calm. Let me know if you need assistance. Sir, I can barely hear you. I'm on the northwest side of the building. I have an injured officer with me who needs medical attention immediately, Borealis said over the radio as he tried to stay calm. The villain Muscular destroyed Lemillion's radio. We were able to take him down by working together. Thank you for the update, Borealis. I sent some medical personnel over to your location, Night-Eye said, sounding relieved. Good work out there, Borealis. Thank you, sir, Izuku replied. A few moments later, the green-haired boy waved to the medical team as they approached. The emerald-eyed boy watched as they patched the injured officer up. Izuku escorted the group towards the entrance of the exam site. Then he raced towards the west side of the building. As he got closer, he noticed one of the clones attacking a group of heroes. The provisionally licensed hero activated his quirk and raced forward. Izuku focused his quirk into his right arm. A weak green glow appeared around his arm. The green-haired student sent a straight right punch into the face of the clone. A single bolt of green lightning struck the villain in the face. The body of the villain slowly started to break down into mud. The green-haired boy searched for the next location where he could provide assistance. The explosive blasts were slowly becoming less frequent. A black-haired man wearing yellow goggles was swiftly taking down a group of thugs trying to enter the exam site through the entrance on the west side of the building. Borealis raced over to his teacher as the police started to arrest the thugs. Sensei, what are you doing here? Izuku asked in surprise. Shouldn't you be with my classmates who are taking the exam? I was with them. I joined the fight after the exam ended. Didn't you know you were protecting your classmates? Aizawa asked. No, sir. All they said was that I was guarding Site B. They didn't tell us who was taking the test inside of the building, Borealis tiredly muttered as the effects of adrenaline started to wear off. Night-Eye informed me that you took down Muscular. Well done. Gran Torino is fighting the last remaining clones just south of us, Eraserhead said in his emotionless monotone. I would head over there myself, but villains keep trying to enter the premises through the entrance I'm guarding. Izuku's teacher removed his goggles from his face and tilted his head upwards. The black-haired teacher took out a bottle of eye drops from his left pocket and squirted a few drops of the liquid in each eye. He then placed the goggles back over his eyes and returned the bottle to his pocket. Satisfied that the entrance was secure, Izuku headed to the south side of the building to assist Gran Torino, but arrived just as the last remaining clone was defeated. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. First, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What If. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Second, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Last, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.